This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Mall of America's mystery cards are back, and we're bringing them to you all summer long. Come grab yours at KFAN events throughout the summer, wherever you see our KFAN street team. Then be sure to redeem them at Mall of America for fun prizes and big discounts. Full list of events, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
With us, I'm going to call the game differently. I'm going to call plays differently. I am acknowledging that at the line of scrimmage we got destroyed. I have to take the next step in further implementing the ground game, maybe even a different kind of passing game. Do we believe him?
Yeah, I'm sure he knew the answer you wanted to hear.
No.
I do think that is the intent, and I think that that's the way they'll build the game plans, especially early in the season. I think that they're not going to put Jordan Mason or Aaron Jones. They're going to put them to work. They didn't bring them here to rest, and so I think that's the intent. I don't know what will happen in the heat of the moment when every coach, Kevin O'Connell included, makes decisions and adjustments based on how the start of the game goes and based on how the defense is. I would imagine that opposing defenses will play them a little differently too. Mm-hmm. If everybody's talking about how the Vikings are going to run the ball more and they're going to not call the game the same way that they have in the past, then defenses will adjust, and they might create situations that invite passing and discourage running. And then do you just do it anyway, or do you take what the defense is giving you?
Do you envision, I could have asked the head coach this question and didn't, do you envision 50-50 between Jones and Mason, 75-25? Just let it evolve and it'll all just take care of itself naturally? What do you think?
It's a good question. Something I've been asking about and going to keep doing that. I'm going to write about that probably next week. I don't think it's going to be 75-25. Like that's even more than what Aaron Jones did last year.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it'll be a lot closer to 50-50. Like I think Aaron Jones is still, the top of the depth chart. They're very different players, and there's different times maybe to use each one of them. Jordan Mason is like a bowling ball, man. Like I would imagine, and not this would be the only time to use him, but I would imagine him in the fourth quarter against a defense that's tired and he's relatively fresh, that is a pretty good advantage. And so asking Kevin O'Connell about it yesterday, he said that what he likes most about it is they're both complete players. So it's not like you have to use one in passing situations and one is in a blocking situation. You can't use this guy here. This guy can't do that. They both can do everything. So I think I don't know if it'll be exactly 50-50, but I think it's be a heck of a lot closer to that than 75-25.
So this is day 2, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are you looking at right now? What's worth looking at 2 days in?
There's still an experimental phase on personnel, but not as much as they were in the spring. So who was out there with the first team and who isn't out there with the first team or second team is instructive, and how that changes from one practice to the next is instructive. There's some players that are not on the PUP, which was good news, but are not ready to completely do everything. Christian Darrisaw, Will Fries among them. And so we're watching to see the progress that they make or don't make, and to try to get a sense for what that week 1 lineup is going to be that everybody wants to know about. And some of the newer players like Rondale Moore, who was a receiver that they signed, had a bad knee injury last year. He didn't do anything this spring, so we haven't really seen what he can do. He's kind of like a smaller guy that, in theory, could be like a guy out of the backfield, or not trick play, but just kind of unusual type play calls. And so, I'd like to see if they're actually using him for that kind of thing, or if they're just kind of sticking him out at receiver. And so, those are some of the things. The other last thing is Isaiah Rodgers, the new cornerback. They're putting a lot of faith in him as a guy who's never really been a full-time player to be that number 2 cornerback. He's impressed a lot of people. Today he had a really nice play guarding Rondale Moore. They tried to throw like a back shoulder to Moore, and Isaiah Rodgers kind of just stuck his left arm backwards and tipped it out of the way. And so that was noticeable. And so those are some of the things that I'm looking at early, and things will get more interesting even from some of the other standpoints once the pad gets on Monday.
Will you be surprised if they, between now and the start of the season, they don't add another corner, a veteran corner?
Not yet. There might be a time pretty soon when we see that some of the guys that they had hoped would elevate did not, and then at that time, you would expect them to mobilize on who's out there. But I'm not at the point yet to say that any of the guys that they've talked about, younger guys that haven't really spent a lot of time playing in the NFL, not ready to say that they're not there yet.
Who is the best defensive player on this team? If you're forced.
No, it's a good one because there's no like guy that, I mean, Harrison Smith I think is the closest to being a Hall of Fame player, but that's a career achievement award. Right. He's still really good at some things and maybe the best in the NFL at some things, but in terms of his overall player, I'd have to the first player I thought of when you said that, and then I started going through it all is Jonathan Grenard. I just think he just showed up as a really impressive pass rusher from all different kinds of angles. And I know Andrew Van Ginkel, another really good pass rusher, tends to be a little more versatile. But I just think Grenard as like a run stopper on the edge and a pass rusher and a leader and a guy in the locker room, the guy that if you're third down or fourth down to win the game, who do you think is the most likely guy to make a play? I'd say Jonathan Grenard. And so that's probably, as I talk my way through it, I think that's probably the way you define it, is who would you most likely think would make a play in that game-winning situation, and I think it'd probably be him.
Going back to the corners for a second, do we have Jeff Okudah here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So give us his background and give us whether you think he's got any real chance to become a factor.
Yeah, he was a very high draft pick. I think he was the Lions' third pick in the draft a few years back, and just had a lot of injuries. He was in Atlanta, some other places, and so, but he's healthy now, and they are definitely giving him that opportunity. I think, from what I can tell, when they go to nickel, he's the third cornerback in, and so teams play a lot of nickel, and so he's been on the field a lot. He's a big dude, strong, still can move well enough to stay with receivers. So I think there's a lot. It's a very intriguing, low risk signing that they made. You don't necessarily want to count on him,
right?
And I don't know that they were counting on him per se, but they're giving him a huge opportunity to really be part of the rotation right now.
Bursic mentioned yesterday a belief he thinks, and I guess you could say this about any defensive front, is that the best case scenario is the Vikings front does a better job putting pressure on its own, and therefore you don't have to maybe send extra people as much as we have in the past. Is that, I don't know how much B-Flow has talked about this, is that, I assume it's the goal of every team. Obviously, it's always better to be able to keep as many people in coverage as possible if you're getting the rush that you want. How do you think that might play out?
It feels very traditional for Brian Flores, and he even said today, he was talking, and he's somebody asked him about, I think, would Josh Metellus be a traditional safety this year, and he said traditional doesn't really sound like the way we do things here, and so I think that there'll still be a whole lot of emphasis on trying to get an extra step on the quarterback, because it takes the quarterback an extra step to figure out what's going on. I still think there's going to be a heavy emphasis on that. But even from just a run stopping, people think about the two guys they signed, Allen and Hargrove, as pass rushers, and they are, but also they're complete players, and so to have some people who can stop the run, better than maybe they did in the past. The whole off season was not just about improving the interior of the offensive line, but also the interior of the defensive line, and it wasn't just for pass rush or pass protection. It was for run blocking and run stopping as well.
Who's replacing Cam Bynum?
Well, it's interesting. Yesterday, it was, for the most part, Josh Metellus, and that was prompting the questions of more traditional safety.
Right.
Today, Metellus was not out there. He had what the Vikings said was an ankle injury, and so Theo Jackson.
Not contractitis?
Well, I mean, yesterday Josh Metellus stood up and told us that it was too close to the season, that he did not think that holding out or holding in was something that he as a leader of the team should do. And today he wasn't out there, but they said it was an ankle injury. So I can't impugn without evidence, and I don't have evidence at this point. And so ankle injury it is. But I think that everybody sort of assumed that when Cam Bynum left, they re-signed Theo Jackson and he would do that role, and then Josh Metellus would keep doing this hybrid thing.
Monster back.
But you can't just assume that things are going to be. Yeah. That was a very specific setup for a very specific set of players. Now they have a different set of players, and so maybe sometimes Josh Metellus is that traditional safety, and that gives them a chance to get like a Dallas Turner on the field when Grenard and Van Ginkel are also out there. There's lots of different possibilities, and we shouldn't just assume that they're locked into this one particular 11-man structure.
Last question: how much do you miss Mankato? Everybody's writing. Royce wrote it for like the 9th straight year.
Yeah.
We started the show waxing nostalgic. I mean, have we overrated the Mankato? Has it reached a point where, as cool as it was in some ways, that we're kind of only remembering the stuff we want to remember about the Mankato experience?
I think that's true of all memories and all nostalgia.
Yes.
We tend to remember the things that we enjoyed if we're even remotely optimistic about life. And so I also have some nostalgia for it, but I do whether it's Mankato or whether it would have been Bemidji or Duluth or anywhere, when you're away for 2.5 weeks, by the end of that time you're ready to get home. And so some people got to that point earlier than others, but I miss being the problem is I haven't had much reason to go to Mankato for any reason, and so I don't get to pop down there, and it's a fun place to be, and I enjoyed it, and training camp forced me to be down there, maybe a few days too long for my liking, but I missed that time. But if I had to choose, I think just from a very personal logistical standpoint, it's certainly better to be at home.
It's all about you, isn't it?
It is. Well, for me, you asked me.
I
you
didn't
didn't ask somebody else. They might think differently.
Yeah, that's very true.
So.
Very true. Good to see you. Thanks as always.
Yeah.
Just try to stay cool, stay dry.
Yes, sir.
Kevin Seifert, ESPN.com. Short break here. Bottom of the hour, we're going to do some oding to a very well-known dead guy. More on that in just a minute.
Before we go, the fan at BigDeck.com and give a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. Enter the keyword. The keyword is check for this hour. The keyword is check. KFAN.com. Keyword check. Bonus Bucks is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. That's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. To enter keywords and learn more, head to KFAN.com. Bonus Bucks is presented by BigDeck.com.
It's definitely the calm after the storm here at TCO Performance Center. When I say storm, I mean that not literally. The weather today was actually pretty nice. A little bit warm when the sun broke through the clouds, but less humidity. I think a little less corn sweat apparently today. And really no storm in terms of, there weren't any, I don't think, particularly controversial moments at practice. We had the head coach, KOC, afterwards. Nice conversation, as always, with him. And then Seifert, who just wrapped things up with us. And I think if you really, it's dangerous to try to distill an entire season in terms of team prospects to one aspect. But I honestly believe, if I had to, it would be whether KOC can stick to his vow. And as he said to us, which is, I have to call differently. I have to call it differently than I have in the past. And I think here's the reason I think he might stick to it. He now gets, self-preservation is a very powerful deal.
Yeah.
And he's got to figure out, I'm sure he has figured out, that he is now connected to this quarterback, right? They're almost a package now where if it goes well, he's going to get another genius notch.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it's going to be, well, they couldn't do it. The quarterback whisperer couldn't do it with him, or he wasn't as good as advertised. And to that end, he's going to try to do everything in his power to give the kid a chance to succeed right away. And that is where I think he says, then I can't worry about flexing on 3rd and 12 going 22 yards downfield. If there's a better play, a more modest play that's going to get me to where I want to go. Now, 3rd and 12 is usually a passing down, but let's even just say on 2nd and 6, maybe he's more likely to run it again on 2nd down and get it to a 1st down or 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2. But I think his willingness to stick to that plan is key, because everything they've done this offseason is, I think, literally with that in mind. The words last year I thought were a little hollow because they weren't really backed up with anything other than, I guess you say, Aaron Jones,
yep.
and they did, and early they ran him a lot. But now you've had a number of other moves that go directly to becoming more of a power team at times, giving you that versatility. I didn't get into it with him, but Kwesi talked about we got to be able to win a lot of different ways. And now there's another side of this. The players you've added have to be good enough to help bring about this so-called new physicality, right? Some of it is execution, but I think a lot of it is intent, and a lot of it is, are you going to not revert 2 games into the season if you go, well, that was a good idea in theory, but I'm going to have to start slinging the ball. I really believe, offensively at least, that's going to be the story. If he can subtly make that adjustment, which I think the best teams do, which is about, he brought it up again, just sort of overpowering people more, because we saw this team, especially in that Rams game, get over-bleeping powered at the line of scrimmage. That was the story.
Badly.
Yeah.
Badly. And he's got a quarterback who I think, just given his college pedigree, isn't going to mind if...
No, that's a great point.
I mean, what was the knock on J.J. McCarthy? He never had to throw. And it didn't look like it ever bothered him, right?
No.
As they were ripping through the Big Ten and going on to win a national championship.
He had the plays.
He did, obviously, and so he knew that when he did throw, it was going to be fine. But that's what we talked about it, when people would say, well, he never had to throw. For whatever reason, I caught a lot of Michigan that year, just being in hotel rooms around Big Ten country, waiting for night games or whatever, and they were always playing Big Noon kickoff. It's like, well, but every time they called his number, he was ready to go, and he made plays, and it didn't seem to bother. Like some quarterbacks, they want to throw it. They're looking at the line, what do you mean we're running it again? And McCarthy obviously was fine with the way Michigan wanted to do things, and so he's going to get buy-in from his QB. Now, he's a rookie QB anyway, basically, so it's not like he's going to start chirping. But I think it helps that you have a guy that understands winning football, and McCarthy's won everywhere, and a lot of it is because of how good the running game was, too.
Let's get a bottom-of-the-hour pause in now, go in a very different direction. News breaking earlier today of a, beyond major death in the from the world of wrestling. And we'll do our very own Ode to a Dead Guy with another wrestler who is fairly well established locally, nationally, and internationally as well, and got to know Hulk Hogan very well as a rival and occasionally as an ally as well. Ken Patera will join us after a brief pause right here in the Fan.
And now, it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
Feels like we've been playing this song a little bit too often lately. News breaking earlier today that Hulk Hogan has died at the extremely young age of 71 years old. To describe him as a wrestler, obviously, does not tell the story. If he were merely a wrestler, there'd be a story to tell. But it's the fact that Hogan became one of those guys who did cross over, became part of the sort of the popular culture, the popular scene as well, and had considerable ups and some significant downs as well. And we expect to visit here shortly with Ken Patera, who knew him quite well. As we speak, I hope the listeners will be patient, because I know Brett Blakemore is back at headquarters still trying to track him down. There may be some delay there, but as soon as we get him to the phone, if indeed we're able to do that, we'll get him on. I don't think either one of us You didn't, as you grew up, was wrestling a big thing for you?
Not
I didn't think
even
so.
a little.
For me, I had a brief period. The only period that I got into it a little bit, believe it or not, was the Lost Years in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I don't even know why, but I got into a little bit of wrestling. Didn't last, so it's not in my wheelhouse either, but it's undeniable how big he became. And there's Minnesota connections there, obviously, with the AWA, because he exploded here. And that's part of why I talked to Patera about how he ended up here, how that whole thing kind of played out, and then he ended up obviously making part of he was a big part of the WWE empire. A large man. I think he was 6'7", 6'8".
Was he that big?
Big, tall guy. There's no doubt about that. And, I mean, it's like with anything. There are some people who just seem almost natural at playing certain roles, and he did. The other thing that struck me in reading some of the stuff today already, and if we get Ken Patera, I'm sure he could speak to this too, is we spend a lot of time talking about the physical toll of professional football, or football at any level. The physical toll on wrestlers, man. It's and I believe Hulk had something like 8 or 9 back surgeries just within the last few years.
Right.
Had neck issues as well. You want to talk about a sport that can literally change everything about you physically. Talk to some of the pro wrestlers, and I know I think most of them are not complaining. They understood it kind of came with the territory, but it was it's pretty remarkable how the wear and tear that's involved, even if a lot of it's obviously scripted.
Yep.
And fake. There's still great physicality to it, right?
The training, yes. And obviously back in that era, too, when you're coming up, like, who knows what they're doing to get those bodies.
Yes, right.
Yes. And even to continue to compete and show up week after week. You don't have these huge... I mean, you had big events, but you also just had to, pull up in different towns, right? And you had to work to get the money. And just being out there over and over again, even if you kind of know what the steps are supposed to be and what's supposed to hit where, it's crazy what they put themselves through.
There's 2 sports, I think, in which I felt this for years, that the average rube never really or were less interested in blaming football players or wrestlers for using anabolic steroids.
Right.
And you could say, well, you should be consistent on it if it's against the rules or whatever the case may be. But I think because of the nature of those sports, there was more of the feeling of, well, you got to do what you got to do, man. Yeah, it's wrong, and it's against the rules, and there were players who didn't cross that line, and they shouldn't be penalized for not crossing that line. But it's just the physical nature. I always felt like people resented baseball players for using that stuff a lot more because it's just not as physical a game, right? We'll all agree. Whatever baseball is, it's a grind. It goes on forever. But it's not the same kind of physicality that you see day in, day out in the game of football and the game of wrestling. So there's a lot to get to regarding Hulk. He had there, and I don't know all the details of this. There was, I think, at least once or twice, somebody got a hold of a sex tape. That got controversial.
Yep.
And then there were some racist rantings from him that I think he was booted out of pro wrestling for a while when that all kind of played out. And it's disturbing commentary for sure. There's no excusing it in any way, shape, or form. And I think the last few years it ended up kind of working against him with some of the kids. We've talked about this before. What tends to happen when the person passes away, though, is it's not like we should forget or do forget the downs, but more we tend to take the longer view that has to do with the breadth of the career and not just with the way we might have been thinking of them towards the end when there were some bad stories. We have indeed located a man who... knew Hulk Hogan very well. Kenny Patera is kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Ken, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much for the time. We very much appreciate it. Can you recall the very first time you met Hulk Hogan?
Yeah. I met him at the airport in Allentown, Pennsylvania in 1980.
What was the occasion?
And, WWF used to do their TV on Wednesday afternoons in Allentown. And so he was, that was his first day for TV. And so he flew in from Tampa, Florida, and I flew in from Minneapolis, I think.
Okay.
And so we both wound up at the airport. It was New Year's Day. And it's a funny day to start TV, huh?
That's for sure. That's for sure. And so what are you thinking? What were your early impressions of him?
Well, he's a young guy then. He's 10 years younger than me. And I'm 81. Well, he was 71. I'm kind of shocked that he passed away because he was always in good health.
Right.
But I guess there was complications with the neck surgery
right
a few weeks ago.
That's what I was told, too.
Yeah. Okay, so... but yeah, he was a nice kid, shy, very shy.
Shy? Hulk Hogan?
Shy, very shy. Well, if he's around a bunch of jabronis like radio and TV people,
right.
Yeah, he was in his own element there, and yeah, he was very respectful towards the older wrestlers.
Sure.
Because, he didn't know anything. He was green. He's brand new. I think he had only been in the business for 5-6 months. He was wrestling a bunch of little territories down south, around Florida and Tennessee. I think Memphis was one of them. But, he turned out to be a good kid. He was with his buddy, Dizzy. You remember who Dizzy was?
No.
Well, Dizzy turned out to be Beefcake, Brutus the Beefcake.
Ah.
Yeah, or Brutus the Barber Beefcake. His real name was Eddie Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
But he was going by, they had a couple of different names. Terry was going, they were tag team partners down the Southern Territories, and
sure.
They were going as the Boulder brothers, Terry Boulder and Dizzy Boulder. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. How did he transform from that shy kid to becoming a guy who, I think you'll agree, became more than a wrestler? He kind of crossed over into the popular culture. How did he pull that off?
Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon wanted to take wrestling to Hollywood. Yep. And he worked his ass off to do it. And so finally, I think it was in the late 80s or mid 80s, he finally got a foothold with somebody out there in Hollywood and started pushing the wrestlers towards movie deals and
sure.
whatnot. And I was involved with all that.
Yep.
But believe it or not, I turned down all the movie deals because they only wanted to pay, I think for one, the Incredible Hulk, the TV series,
yes.
Starring Rigno.
Yes.
Well, Lou and I were pretty good friends back in those days, and so anyway, Bill Bixby, the creator of the Incredible Hulk series. Mm-hmm. He came over to me and asked me if I'd be interested. And I said, sure. I said, what does it pay? He says, well, we can pay $3,500. I said, $3,500 for what? One episode? No, that would be for 5 episodes.
Oof.
I said, a total? I said I make twice that much in Madison Square Garden every other Monday. And so that was the going rate back in those days.
Okay.
That's why Lou Ferrigno, after 3 or 4 seasons, finally walked out.
Yeah, that'll probably do it, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
There's no question about that.
He'd get $25,000 a season.
Yeah, that's not enough.
I mean, that tied up, half his year for $25,000.
Hey, let me ask you this.
Star of the show.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, well, Hogan ended up making a little bit more than that, didn't he?
Yeah, well, to begin with, he did.
Yeah, right.
Because they just didn't pay.
Yeah.
And Schwarzenegger, I talked to Schwarzenegger, in '78, I believe. And for that Conan series, they hadn't started shooting it yet, but
Conan, yeah.
He was negotiating a contract for $50,000.
How did
I said?
You said no?
I said I can't do that.
Yeah.
Because he told me that he could get me on the set,
Sure.
and it introduced me to the sponsors and stuff that had money.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be the producers.
Let me ask you this. How did Hulk end up in the AWA? How did he end up landing in Minneapolis?
Well, both him and I were in the WWF at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 82, I guess it was, maybe 83, whatever it was, the timeline. And he had a talk with the old man McMahon, Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Not the kid.
Right.
And who's an old man now. But anyway, they were talking. And so Vince told him that he'd be able to talk to Vern Gagne and get him into Minneapolis.
Ah.
And so I was supposed to go on that, but I was wrestling independent. I was doing my own promoting, my own booking and stuff. Because I had a big name and I was able to fly out literally all over the country and many parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, Hulk didn't have that exposure yet because he had only been in the WWF for about 2 years, I guess. Which back in those days, 2 years was just about max for anybody.
Right.
Especially for a rookie. And so anyway, he wound up contacting Vern, and Vern brought him in. And then I was still doing independence at the time, and then I ran into Vern down in St. Louis one day. I was working down there and ran into him in the Chase, at the Chase Hotel, big hotel down there. And we were doing TV that day. And so Vern says, you know this Terry Bollea? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, we have him coming in from Vince over in New York. He said, I'd love to have you come up. I said, well, Vern, I'm doing awfully good. I'm making good money and booking my own shows and whatnot. He says, well, I told him, I said, you guarantee me $2,000 a week and I'll come. Well, you can't. I can't. People don't get guarantees like that. I said, Vern, $2,000 a week is nothing. I'm doing $3,000 a week right now. And that was in 1980? No. Would have been 83. 82, 83, whatever. And so anyway, I wound up with an agreement with Vern, so I came in. Hulk came in. A couple other guys came in. I can't remember who they were. Yeah. So that was the start of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you became one of his big rivals, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrestled Hulk probably. Yeah, back in those days, Vern only ran about 17 shows a month.
Yeah.
Which was perfect. So we had some time off. But anyway, Hulk and I wrestled, I'd say 10 times a month, at least, maybe more. I remember one streak, we 15 times straight.
15?
Yeah, 15 times. Yeah.
Did you like him?
Hell. Huh?
Did you like him?
Yeah, we were good friends.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Hey, let me ask you one other question. And this is not just about him, but it's about you, it's about the industry. Because it strikes me, we talk about football players and the way their bodies get battered. I'm constantly amazed at some of the stories regarding folks who were in wrestling as long as you were, and the physical toll that it just invariably takes. And again, I think in his case there was like 7 or 8 back surgeries most recently, and you mentioned the neck thing. Does the average rube understand just how exacting a toll, how physical, being a big time, like you were, a big time, long sustaining wrestler is, how tough that is on the body?
Well, I'm looking at my wheelchair and my up walker. And that's how I get around. I'm very mobile. With a lot of assistance.
Yeah.
And I have a couple canes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all what a lot of people think,
Sure. Yep.
When you get body slammed, you get body slammed. When you get suplex, you get suplex. It all hurts. Those rings were like concrete.
Oof.
And now I think they have they have a lot of give.
Yeah.
We did have some good rings,
right,
which carried over to today's wrestling, but very little on good equipment. So we always worked with lousy equipment.
Yeah. That makes a difference.
I'll tell you, in Allentown, first day, New Year's Day, 1980, I met Hulk.
Yeah.
Back in Pennsylvania there. The locker rooms, they didn't have locker rooms in the field house. They'd put up pieces of plywood.
Oh.
And they had a stack of plywood that would always be there. So when they needed a locker room, they'd put the plywood planks up.
Oh, man.
With the 2x4s and stuff. And then the people were right outside. I mean, there was no privacy.
No privacy at all. Ken, I want to tell you, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us some time today. Be well, and we'll talk to you somewhere down the line. Thanks again for the help today.
Yeah, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Bye-bye.
Ken Patera, one of the all-time wrestling greats, talking about his own relationship with Hulk Hogan in very vivid terms, terms that might have been a little more vivid than we expected, but then again, that's what happens from time to time. You live and you learn.
Let's do a wellness check on Brett Blakemore, who's in charge of the dump button
How'd it
today.
go, Blakemore?
How are you doing, Brett?
I think I got everything. My God.
A little intense?
Yeah.
Don't swear yourself in recapping that whole thing.
Yeah, we'll just leave it. We'll leave it there.
Congratulations to all the stream audience who got that unedited.
They got the unfettered version of Kenny Patera. I
almost turned him off.
Well, a couple times.
Done.
Well, it was close. I was close to that as well. It's the old deal of where a couple times I had to bring him back to, we want to talk not today about you, but about Hulk. And that sometimes he was kind of drifting in that regard as well. But we got to some stuff. We definitely got to some stuff, and he goes way back with Hulk. That part,
January 1, 1980,
undeniable as well. There's no question about that. But he, when he gets worked up, he's just going to let it go, and that's pretty much what Kenny Patera did for sure. We have a full, about 35 minutes to go in today's show. We're broadcasting live from TCO Performance Center today. Had a nice conversation with the head coach between, 4:20 and 4:50. In addition, follow-up conversation with Kevin Seifert. All that's going to be podcastable and downloadable to you later. Turned out to be a decent day. No rain today. A little warm, but not at all ridiculous as it has been in the past. We'll be out here a couple of days next week as well with more guests. Ben Gessling will join us tomorrow when we're back at headquarters. So lots more Viking stuff to get to, and we'll review a couple of other stories in the final half hour of today's edition of the program. That is, if we are still on the air. Back in a minute, right here on the Fan. We're back. The business is volatile. I mean, you over a period of years, you think you establish, decent instincts on, well, this person makes sense as a guest, this one doesn't. And in the case of Kenny Patera, this idea was brought to you, right, via text, through a contact of yours, and it made all the sense in the world on the basis of how far back he and Hulk Hogan go. Again, I think Kenny told us he's 81 or 82.
Yep.
And so there's always the question of sometimes, how's that going to go? And it was touch and go for a while. Like I said, the best part for me, the most entertaining part, was not the language, which we certainly apologize for, and I think we did get that taken care of from an FCC standpoint on the frequency. Internet, you guys got what you got, but it's that, and this is not the first time this happens, where you end up getting more of an ode to the person you're talking to than an ode to the person you're trying to talk about. In the case of Hulk Hogan, this always was the inside joke with Sid. Somebody famous would die, and generally the Sid column ended up being more of an ode to Sid than it was to the person who had just passed away. Many of us got a good chuckle out of that. It was about how I was the guy who got him this, and I was the guy who got him that. It's part of what made Sid, to be honest with you. It's just, just part of the deal. I wouldn't mind hearing from the wrestling community on just the Hulk Hogan legacy, and how much, for the average Hulk Hogan fan, what impact did some of that later stuff have, especially the racist rantings that are indefensible, of course. I'm not one of those people who then believes that's all you should be willing or able to talk about regarding that person. Most people are more complicated, but that changed a lot, and it affected, even in some wrestling communities, it affected his sort of, grandfathered in as this lifetime achievement guy. It got in the way of that. And I'm curious to hear from the wrestling community on that issue, and then more generally, why is he the one who crossed over? Was it something in his personality? You heard, and I thought it was one of the more enlightened moments from Kenny Patera, a belief that Vince McMahon happened.
Yeah. That
McMahon helped him to create
good timing,
the Hulk Hogan character, and that had a decent part of that conversation. But what was it about him? I mean, I guess people would say, well, it wasn't going to be him, it would be somebody else. Maybe, but it wasn't somebody else. It was him. And then, of course, he ended up in movies. He obviously ended up didn't he have his own reality show?
He did.
For a while.
Yep, I seem to remember that. I didn't watch much of it,
yeah.
but I do remember that.
Exactly it. So if you have opinions on that or observations, it's a big name for you. Don't hit the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line today because we won't get it. Instead, tweet at me, Dan Barreiro KFAN, and give me a little bit of insight there. We did have some interesting reaction tweets that came in during that conversation. Mike in Chaska writes, growing up in a small town in the 90s in my local Senex, there was always a group of old men sitting around drinking coffee and BSing about whatever. F-bombs flying. And it was great. If you want a small taste of what that's like, just re-listen to Barreiro and Garzi with Ken Patera in the 5 o'clock hour. MN Bear, Ken Patera equals best interview ever. Can't stop laughing. Our old friend Kevin Hollabar. Kenny Patera talking about himself as an incredible tribute to Hulkster. He would have done the exact same thing, which is a very good observation. Mike Kurtz checks in. Thank you, Barreiro and Garzi. 2 of my heroes died this week. I appreciate the respect you all have given. I know Dan had to carry that, but I appreciated it. Good stuff. And I can't. Do you see the one from Justin Valder? I guess I'm just in
I'm
that
not
one.
sure.
Danny Boy is fighting off a chicken wing from good old Ken, a sleeper hold in the take. Ode to a Dead Man on Hogan. I'm not sure I understand that one, but maybe he dictated it. What's the fine count? Brian wants to know. The FCC fine count so far in this interview. LOL. And then there's Clayton. Brett, the button. Brett, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm just glad he got to the first one. The first one's the most important.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm fuming right now. I'm really upset. I hit the button every time, so I don't...
You're good.
You're good. Yeah, don't worry about it.
You're good.
Don't overthink it.
You do what you can.
Oh, that's what I do best. So.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, that's human nature. We all do that to a degree. You'll be okay. We have your back until we don't.
We got a Venmo for the fine. We'll get a Venmo for the fine if we need one.
6 years was a good run.
I'm just glad you were in the room, because if you weren't in the room, that would have been bad for all of us. So,
well, there was that question. You could say after that, I should have said
we need you to clean it up.
And I didn't.
Who was it that we had to tell?
Oh,
basically, you're on live, AJ, where we had to say something about we got to have you clean up the language.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was. It was another, it was somebody else who had been around a while and was letting it fly.
You're right. Who was that?
And I can't remember who it was. But, I mean, we've had former Mayor Sharon Sales Belton swear on the air.
That's true.
We've had Kevin O'Connell almost did today. He caught himself because he's KOC.
Robert Smith has.
I mean, the most polished guy we ever have on KOC today almost let one slide.
There are a couple other people who, are like they just kind of let it go. It's usually the S word.
Yeah,
it's not the F word generally.
Yeah,
where I think most people have enough of a built-in filter, and we did get that one.
Yep. For the air.
And I thought maybe, all right, he got that out of his system, and we'd move on because there's some character aspects to him. But in any case, it was. But
when you have a guy who knew him as Terry, right? That was my favorite part. When Vern Gagne says, "Hey, do you know Terry?"
Right.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, I absolutely know him. Before he was Hulk, that to me was the most interesting part.
Correct. Well, I'm sure there will be more about his medical condition because apparently there was this significant neck surgery not that long ago, which may or may. Yeah, again, I mean, stuff happens. You never know, but that may have had something to do with the story as well. By the way, it is worth mentioning. Away from this story, we kind of tried to monitor Twins-Dodgers. It was a day game yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a little harder because they're redoing the wall, the TV wall, and they're still kind of in mid remodeling there. So that wasn't available. So then you had to check online. And to be honest with you, as far as say, well, does it really matter? Are we really going to be fixated on whether the Twins win this game? Because they came back to take the lead in the 8th, and then they were walked off in the 9th. Apparently.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
And there was a big
decision
and controversy. The Rocco terrorists were all over Rocco because he intentionally walked who's the slugger?
Shohei Ohtani
to put the winning run, I think, on first and the tying run on second. It was a kind of situation where you're adding base runners and putting one in scoring position.
Yep.
I believe.
Tying run on second.
And I got to tell you, I'm not that offended by it. I mean, I know a lot of baseball people wouldn't do it because I don't care who the hitter is. I don't care if it's Babe Ruth in his prime, which this guy might be.
Right.
I'm not putting him on second base. And you'll notice who was the relief pitcher. The name will come to me in a minute. It was He basically ripped the decision.
Yeah, he wanted it.
Is the old I want to compete again. And you could make that argument. You could say the manager could say, "Look, man, it's what we pay you for. Just take your best shot at him. We're gonna believe in you."
But he walked the next guy.
Exactly.
That's
which
where
is hard.
he kind of loses it.
That's why I think it's hard for me to accept his position on it. I was not that offended by the move.
Nope.
To be honest, I can't be offended by any one move right now.
Right.
But it ended up costing them, and they did lose the game. So there are people who are just waiting to jump on Rocco, and
Correct.
I'm not sitting here telling you Rocco is headed for a Hall of Fame managerial career. But that one doesn't offend me at all. I think I would have done the same thing. Oh, I mean, was it 5 straight games he's hit a home run?
Yes.
Which I think
including
ties the
yesterday.
Dodgers rating, including he had a dong early, a solo dong yesterday. So the guy's he's ridiculous.
Yep.
So I don't have a major issue with that move. Obviously, worst case scenario, then you're going to say, well, then now it's easy to say, well, you should have done it. But we're leaving out. This is the great unknown. If he pitched to him, he might have hit a 2-run home run. What are you going to do? I mean, it's just. So I'm not that offended by that move.
No, and we were talking about this in Vegas because it was happening kind of.
The guy was coming up and he hit like 190. I think the hitter and he walked.
He walked him and then made it more problematic.
Yeah.
And so,
but how about and did you hear his comeback to that, which was a feeble comeback by Jax, which was, well, he's not a very good hitter, and the last thing I want to do is put throw some up there. They give him one. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you don't need to nibble with him.
No, you got to go after a hitter like that. That does negate the strategy, right? So, again,
because then you had to go after Freeman.
If the pitching coach had come out and said, just nibble with this guy, then maybe I understand why it's a bad move to intentionally walk him, the previous hitter. But if not, that your job is to then you want to go after the best hitter in baseball or one of them. Well, then you sure as hell should be willing to go after the next guy who's batting 190 and say not worrying about trying to be too fine or too cute,
right? Which
is obviously what he did.
No, your overall point is the most important one. This season is so far gone, going crazy over any one decision. We've done this for decades with the Twins, right?
Yes.
People that are fine-tooth combing random decisions during the game. None of it matters. None of it's going to matter at this point. However, in this one, you're not pitching to Shohei. You're not doing it. Why would you do that? There's no reason to do it. You have the bases open.
Correct.
Why would you tempt fate there? You don't have a ton of great options, especially after you walk the next guy, because when I first heard about it, I wondered if Freeman was just the next guy, because he's obviously pretty good too.
Yes, right.
And you go, well, there's not a ton of great options there, but I know one thing is I don't want to let Shohei Ohtani beat me here. If we lose on another way, I'm going to have to live with that. That's the unfortunate part when you play a guy that's just that good. We talk about that in basketball all the time. If Michael Jordan gives it up and Steve Kerr hits a shot, I'm going to live with it, right? Those other guys are going to beat me, but I don't want Jordan to beat me.
Isn't it counterintuitive? I mean, his whole logic where, Ohtani's the guy you might want to nibble with because that's the guy you got to be careful with, right? The idea of I want to pitch to him, I want to go after him. Just go after the bad hitter. Don't be cute with him. You in effect negated the best chance the manager had to make that strategy work out, because I have no illusions. There's no chance Rocco said, hey, by the way, this next guy, don't let him get a seeing eye hit just because you give him one right down the middle. Give me a break. That's not the way it's supposed to work. All right, let's come back, wrap up the show, give you some highlights, perhaps some lowlights, and remind you what we have coming up back at headquarters tomorrow here on The Fan.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Been quite an eventful 3.5 hours here out at TCO Performance Center. Our first Vikings practice of the 2025 preseason and training camp, and went quite well. Had a very nice visit with the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. That was about 4:15.
Yep.
So about 4:50 or so. Got into a lot of stuff with him regarding the team, his coaching approach, etc. If you missed it, podcastable, as is our discussion with Kevin Seifert shortly thereafter. And we even had a nice segment. Gargi gave us a nice primer about how Big Ten Media Days went in Vegas. So we had some good Golden Gopher conversation, some other stuff about the college football playoff, etc. So that'll be part of the bit as we get closer now, not only to the NFL season, but the college football season as well. And Kenny Patera joined, and we think we got him bleeped enough to be safe. Hope so. As he talked about his long-standing relationship with Hulk Hogan that goes back many, many, many decades as well. And it was, I think, towards the end, instructive to hear him, as I was bringing up, the toll on the bodies of wrestlers sometimes gets sort of underrated. And he emphasized the point. What did he tell us? Well, I'm in a wheelchair right now. I got a walker. I got two canes. I got two canes. It's sort of the nature. And he even talked about how back in the day, in the ring, some of the rings are like hard as concrete, which isn't all that surprising as well. Kenny Patera joined us probably about 5:40, leading up to close to the end of the 5 o'clock hour of the broadcast. Tomorrow we are back at headquarters. There will be more Vikings conversation with Ben Gessling. He will join in, and you said he's joining earlier than usual. Is that right?
Yes, he will join 3:30, kind of during the final portion of Vikings practice.
Okay, that works. We expect Lavel, who you hung with. Did you hang with him in Vegas?
I did, quite a bit.
Got a lot?
He's still there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
he told us he was going to hang. Yeah.
He has, vacation,
right,
and he kind of coupled it on the front end coming over to Big Ten Media Days. So, yeah.
Better.
And you know Lavelle. Lavelle's always a great hang.
And there's no question.
Lavelle's a great hang, so he'll be good. I sat right next to him as he smoked a cigar.
Did you really? Did it affect you?
No, I mean, you're in Vegas.
Yeah, you got to deal with it.
There's smoke everywhere. Yeah. It's fine. No big deal, but we were good.
So there's no such thing as no smoking zones?
They do have some. Oh, but where you
were was wide open.
Where we were sitting last night was not one of them.
It almost feels like Vegas should. Yeah, it should be required to smoke.
A little bit, don't you think?
That's part of the whole atmosphere of the whole ambiance of it.
We'll be back in Indy next year, I'm sure.
I'm sure, and you'll look forward to it. You always do. We're still hoping to eventually, in the next days or weeks, to include Christine Brennan in the conversation. Her Caitlin Clark book continues to sell like hotcakes. I think it's 1 or 2 in the country.
Yeah.
She's doing very, very well. She can't be happy that she's been hurt as much as she has.
It's crazy.
And I don't even know when she's due back. Not sure if she's close.
I don't know.
To getting back into the...
They probably need to be careful, but also they're a 500 team basically right now. They need to go on a little bit of a run probably.
Link we still have the best record in the league, correct?
Believe that's true.
In position to have home ice advantage, although, again, it's a longer season now. It's 44 games. So we still got a ways to go there as well. So that's the plan for tomorrow. The moral of the story here today, I think, in terms of the Vikings is it's purposeful that the Vikings practice in the afternoon. I mean, the head coach said, "Yeah, we kind of like that. We think you get your house in order." He's the last 2 years. I'm not saying he's Mike Zimmer on this stuff, but I do think as part of this, reinvention of the club to be a little bit more physical, be a little bit less finesse and a little brawnier, the line of scrimmage especially, that we want to make him not suffer, because he would never say that. He's a player's coach. But just, I guess, prepare them better where they are a little bit more capable of dealing with the physical rigors of being a legitimate team, which is obviously what the Vikings want to be in the postseason. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you back from headquarters tomorrow, beginning at 3 o'clock.